Hello, and welcome to Huskies Health. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I would like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon Partners, they specialize in wealth management, retirement planning, and employee benefits. They are also one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. President Sean Rabinowitz is a proud supporter of Husky Talk, and we were thrilled last week to receive the news that his son got a match for his bone marrow and will receive a bone marrow transplant for his leukemia that will save his life. So God bless the person out there who got tested and who is going to do the transplant for him. Also, we have Pete Finch in the Pete Finch Law Firm. If you have been in any type of accident, if you've had a personal injury, a slip and fall, you got hurt on a construction site, a car accident, if you shock yourself at work, anything, whatever, Pete Finch is for you. He's located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He's fought legal battles all over the state, and he will go to war for you and make sure you are compensated every cent. You will get every cent that you are deserved. So please, if you're ever in a pinch, call Finch. And then we have Bleeding Blue for Good. Mike Burton has done a phenomenal job with his team raising money for our NIL collective that has made a difference. Every player that they have brought in has made a difference. There's a reason we went from 3 wins to 8 wins and are going bowling. We need more people to contribute to take us to the next level. We want to get to a Power 5 conference. Basketball, women's and men's, will take care of itself. We have to show in Connecticut we love football, we care about football, and football matters. Go to www.bleedingblueforgood.org and donate. Whatever you can. Every dollar counts. And finally, our newest sponsor is Dynamic Human Performance, which is Andre Dixon. He has a 5,000-foot square facility. He trains from middle schoolers to high schoolers to people coming home from college. It doesn't matter. He has the experience and the pedigree from his time at UConn as a star and in the NFL. He just wants to help each and every athlete hit their potential as an athlete. I said athlete too much, and become the best that they can be. So he sent several players to college on scholarship, and that's the goal. He wants to get you to be the best. They offer several packages. You can go 3 months, you can go 6 months, you can go a year, you can go a week. It doesn't matter. Andre will work with you, and he also offers lessons throughout the day. There are many lessons and training classes throughout the day that you can take part in if you're a member at his gym. So now that I've gotten that all out of the way, I can introduce my esteemed co-host. He works for Tech Systems, but he also has a phenomenal podcast himself. All Black Men Need Therapy. I'm convinced all white men need therapy as well, but he has done a great job. He's gone to college campuses and all around the country speaking to young men and working to give back, which is most important, and put them on the right track. And that is former UConn running back Christopher Bellamy. Chris?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I gotta say, man, that was awesome hearing all the sponsors, dude. Like that's a good problem to have, right? If we're 4 minutes in and we're just now starting,
We're picking up, yeah.
that's a really good problem to have, dude. So yeah, thanks for having me back. This is I'm interested to see where this one goes.
Well, we're picking up theme because we have gotten a lot more viewers, and I credit that obviously to Dave Schumann, but I also credit that to myself. We passed the 1 million mark on his YouTube channel, and
That's
according
awesome,
to Dave, there are 2,000 people in the world that have over 1 million YouTube subscribers on their channel.
That is
so
insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah,
Kudos.
it
Kudos.
is.
Hey, man. That's work though, dude. Like
It is. Yeah.
I've been saying this quote a lot, and I may have said it on here. I don't even remember, but Mike Tomlin was talking to what looked to be like some high school kids or college kids. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, he asked everybody what their stats were. Who's the strongest bench press, squat, vertical, all of that. And when he finished, he said, none of that matters. He's like, it doesn't matter what you're capable of. It's about what you're willing to do. And
that's so true.
And that's all it is, dude. Like, you had no idea what you were doing when you started this, and now look at you now, man. But that's just you being okay with putting yourself out there, going out on the skinny branch, and seeing what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of people, believe it or not, Cully, are not willing to do that, dude.
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to do.
I just recently I was at in New York City last month at an event called Black Stars, and one of my partners at work was being honored. Nonetheless, we're a sponsor and we had a booth. So a woman came up to me at the booth and had a glowing resume in talent acquisition, but she was a little hoppy at one time or another, but she still had a lot of years of experience. And she does these really nice articles on LinkedIn and all these things. And she's like, but I can't find the job right now. I'm like, well, you got 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. Have you told them that you're looking for work? And she's like,
you can put it right up there.
Yeah. She's like, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, then I can't help you. Like, if you don't want to tell, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, she wasn't willing to do that for her livelihood,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. She's very good at what she does.
But nobody knows about it.
She wasn't willing to put herself out there, and that's the difference in a lot of cases, dude. So kudos to you.
I just had the same conversation with my father. He's looking to hire a receptionist. Somebody took his receptionist, and he's like, I'm on Indeed. I'm on this, on that. I'm like, Dad, make a LinkedIn page.
Yeah.
Put that you're hiring. You'll get 5 million resumes within a week.
Yeah, the problem will be sifting through all of those. It won't be people applying.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He's like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to replace her. She was so great. I said, Dad, number one, you won't create a website. I've told you this for 2 years. You're one of the top firms in the area, and you don't have a website. That still baffles me. And number two, I can create a LinkedIn page for you in 2 seconds. You'll get 1 million followers. You'll get people who will want to work for you, and you will fill this position very, very fast. And it's just that, he's a boomer, he's the old school way of thinking. And that's just, it's difficult for them to wrap their heads around the digital marketing piece that goes with it. That's so important. But anyway, somebody from Trumbull asked a question as you were talking last week about the importance of a father being in a child's life. They wanted to know your thoughts on religion or spirituality. Does that play a part in a child's life? And what age did you think they should, if you believe in it, what age would you get them involved in any type of religion?
What's interesting, man? This came up to me also too, ladies and gentlemen. I don't prep for these questions. Like, I'm hearing them for the first time as you guys are hearing them for the first time.
I love throwing curveballs.
Yeah, so I'll get to that question in a second, but somebody brought up an interesting point to me recently. And when I say recent, it was like the last couple of months, but nonetheless, and I don't remember who said it to me, but they were dating someone, and long story short, they don't have kids, but they had 2 conflicting religious beliefs.
Oh,
and I don't remember the religions, but they were different. And I'm like, that is an interesting one. Like, how do you raise the child? Like I know people who are of one religion and their spouse isn't like their
Yeah,
spouse is like they have spirituality, but not necessarily subscribing to one or religion or another.
I do as well. Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen that work just fine. But it was just interesting because I never thought about that dynamic. But in terms of spirituality, here's what I'll tell you guys. And I appreciate the questions, but there is no blueprint for parenting. Period. There's no blueprint for parenting. So I could tell you something, and I could be 100% wrong, right? Like there's no blueprint. Here's what I will tell you.
Well, you've done more right than wrong, I would say.
Yeah, but we have to be careful, man, because like not every kid is the same. Like I grew up I grew up in the same house with two siblings, and we couldn't be further apart. All great people in our own rights, right? But we couldn't be further apart. And all I'll say to that question is whatever you feel in your heart is right. Because at the end of the day, you're that child's nurturer, provider, protector, right? So whatever you feel is right. Like I learned a long time ago, man, you can't tell anybody how to raise their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like you cannot do it. So I mean, whatever you feel is right. You know, religion's one of those touchy subjects, you know, and
Yeah.
Here's what I can tell you, like my son will be like my daughter, right? Like if you talk to my daughter or if my daughter, if you emailed me, I could have my daughter probably respond to you and you wouldn't know it wasn't me, right? Because we're like carbon copies. Like she jokes like me, she's sarcastic like me, like her cadence when she talks is like me. It's because that's what happens, right? Like the child is. I wanted to create a better version of myself when I have a child. Every time I have a child, and I've had two now, and we evolve, right? So the best version of me for my daughter isn't going to be the best version of me for my son because I've evolved. I'm different, right? I'm older. So that's all I'll say. It's like, you know, just do your best to make the best version of you and that child.
Right. No, I agree. They just were like another person. It was Jeremy down in Stanford asked, they're very spiritual and they want to know their child is obviously struggling with some mental health difficulties and what direction to go in as far as, this is again a tough question, with religion, you know, going to a priest or a pastor for guidance or seeking out mental health therapy and treatment or a combination of both.
So here's my thing. Well, one thing I'll mention, as a kid, I went to Sunday school. Like I was in church, like I got picked up on the bus. They came to pick up all the kids in the projects and we all went to church. Like, you know, did the recitals. I did all of that stuff. And here's what I don't agree with. And again, these are just my views and my opinions.
Absolutely.
Like what I don't agree with is saying, like in the Black culture, like there's a saying is like, God got me, right? Which I don't doubt that he does. But you have to participate in your own rescue too. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, I'll just pray on it. Okay, well, what else we gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, be faithful, right? Like have faith, be faithful. But what else are we gonna do? Like, what tangibly can we do, right? Because we don't know when these prayers are gonna get answered, you know. And so what I'm saying is, I don't subscribe to any theory where it's like, hey, I'm just going to therapy. I don't believe in religion. I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to, hey, I'm only seeking my pastor's help. You know, I'm not going in to see a clinician or a therapist. I don't subscribe to that either. I feel like it may be a combination. You know, you don't. Yeah, it may be a combination. I just feel like there's things, and again, I'm more mature now, right? Because when my daughter was going through her mom not being there and all that stuff, somebody told me I should take her to therapy, but I rejected it immediately. But again, I was, 20 years old, right? I didn't know what I was necessarily doing as a parent at that time. You know what I mean? Like I learned now that I made some missteps. I made some good choices, but we learn. Again, there's no blueprint. So I wasn't ready to hear that, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you have to do what's best for you. I don't believe one is the answer, and let's not forget too, guys, like there's people who have been clinically diagnosed with mental health challenges, right? That need medication. So it's not as easy in some cases for somebody to be like, suck it up,
It's not
and
cut and dry.
yeah, like dust yourself off and keep going like that. I'll share something else. So I've been in this yesterday I got in this weird mood, right? And I couldn't figure out what was up with me. And I talked to my daughter later that night. So it must have been it was the day before yesterday. So I talked to my daughter yesterday and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's up. Like, I'm feeling weird. And I'm like, and I was like, it's crazy. I was like, because I talked to 3 people today and they all referenced seasonal depression.
That's so true.
And then I'm like, shit, I just took on their seasonal depression. You know what I'm saying? Like I was fine. Like there was nothing going on with me. But
Right.
because I spoke to 3 people and that's where they were, it's like something chemically happened and was like, oh yeah, you should be depressed too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. So when I realized that, and I realize now, and I've been working out just trying to get my mind right. But what I learned from that is you have to protect your energy. You have to protect your space because man, this shit it can get real fast. You know what I mean? So like I love people interacting with me and I love that. And I'll always answer and I'll always do my best to give sound advice. But I never want to be looked at as an expert, right? Like I even on my podcast, I always talk about that. Like my experiences are my experiences. And yeah, and I've seen some things, I've done some things. If my words can help, awesome, right? Awesome. But at no means don't take my word as like, okay, this is doctrine, this is the only way, or this is the way. Like it's like in sports, Cully, like we know our bodies, right? We know our bodies. So we know how far we can push it and how far we can't. And then when we start to get delusional, our body will remind us like, no, you shouldn't have done that. And I say the same thing with our life walk, right? Like we're walking this because I say parenting doesn't have a blueprint, but neither does life, right? Like we're all trying to figure it out. Now, the good thing is we have access to a lot of information, right? Like that's what this podcast is. It's just information. So yeah, I mean, long answer short, I think it may be a combination, because you also have to remember it's not about you. In this particular case, it's about that child. So you don't know what that child is going to respond to. So when you put them in different environments, it gives them the opportunity to see what they resonate with, right? What resonates with them, what moves them, right? You may not know, right? Like that child, and I'm just throwing this out there, that child may need to just go on a run, right? Like you don't know. So like you want to explore it all because there's no one size fits all.
Adrian and Patrick from Newington had a question about burnout. Okay. They have a child who is going into 6th grade and they have seen other friends with children who they've put into sports, and by the time they've gotten to high school, they burnt out. And they just wanted to know what is the balance, because there's so much expected nowadays as far as your participation with your school team, participation with a club team, then your training in the off season, and starting kids younger and younger and younger has led to burnout with certain kids and certain athletes. And they end up leaving the sport or not wanting to play it all together or play it at their best.
Or resenting their parents
for doing it. Yes, exactly. So that was their concern with is it a mental health issue, or is it on the parents to know their kids and kind of feel it out how they're doing, when to push forward, when to pull back, and kind of recognize those signs, because they were worried about possibly involving their child in too much and having them burn out by the time they're in high school.
So, fun fact, my last 3 credits from my sociology degree was a 15-page paper on parents living vicariously through their children.
That's a great one.
I wrote a 15-page paper on that. And dude, this is an unpopular opinion from a former athlete, but I couldn't care less if my child ever plays sports.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less. Like, he's a big kid, so people see him and they automatically think he's going to play football. I'm like, sure, in high school, he's not going to play before then. And again, that's just what works for me. Here's what I'll say to that question, though. Parents have to check themselves, man. Yeah. Like, parents have to check themselves, because so my son's 4, and again, he's big. So people are, hey, you going to sign him up for this, sign him up for that? Here's the deal, man. 2 things. One, once you start, you can't stop.
No,
right? Once you start, you're not gonna stop, right? So it's like, what's the rush? Yeah. Like, my son's excited to come home and play freeze tag with me. Yeah. Like, literally, I picked him up. He said, "Dad, can we play freeze tag?" You know what I'm saying? So it's like let them. I'm letting him be a child. I'm letting him be a kid. Yeah, like, I got him in jujitsu, but that's literally an hour a weekend, 30 minutes on Saturday, 30 minutes on Sunday. Like, that's not an over exertion, because I've seen it go bad, man. Like, there was this, I'm not going to say his name. There was a prominent basketball player, Division I basketball player from New Britain, where I'm from. And he played D1 ball, and his dad was really good, and his dad just pushed him. And again, he played D1 ball, went to the tournament, everything. And the day after his last game, actually, I don't even think he finished his career. I think he just stopped playing. Yeah. He dropped the ball and never picked it back up, because he just resented his dad for everything that he did and pushing him so much, and he didn't want to do it. And the thing, here's my take on these trainers. Like, it's a different time. Like, it's a different time for kids in sports, right? Like, when I was young, when you were young, we just were outside playing the sport, right? Like, we were playing the sport. I didn't have a trainer. A lot of people didn't have trainers. And trainers I see, I mean, obviously there's football too, but there's a lot of basketball trainers. I just played every day. Like, that's what I did. And the reason why I say parents, just check yourselves. I'm not saying you're the problem. I'm not saying that at all, but just check yourself. Like, is this for me or is this for them? Right? That's how you avoid burnout. Is it for me or is it for them? Now, if you have a kid that's gung-ho and that's waking you up to go train, that's a different story. Right? That's a different story. You have a kid that's motivated, that sees something in said sport or said sports. That's different, right? You match that energy. But maybe that's a good way to sum it up. You match your kid's energy when it comes to that sport, right? You want them to be great. Understand that. And you're going to push them. But there has to be some buy-in. Like, dude, when I was in New Jersey, I was training at a facility, getting ready for the draft, the NFL draft. There were 9-year-olds working with the same trainers I was working with. And I'm like, and these kids don't even know why they're there. And I'm looking at them run. I'm like, oh, he needs more than a trainer, right? Like, this kid is not it. Like, he doesn't have like an athletic bone in his body, right? Like what are we doing here? And these guys aren't cheap, No. So I'm like, we just gotta read the room, like, don't make it about yourself. Like, I have someone who's very close to me who's going through this with his son, and his son just stopped playing in high school, because it's just too much. Like, you cannot make it about yourself. That's what I'll say. You can't make it about yourself. Just check the temperature of your child. Like, get him active, get him out there. I think him or her. Like, I think that's the very good idea. But just read the room, man. Don't make it about you. Like, match their energy. That's what I would say.
And I can tell you the exact same situation is going on with a friend of mine. He had the kid's 6'9", and
Wow.
he had him in personal training since he was in fourth grade. And the team in high school went to the state finals. He was on the varsity freshman and sophomore year. He saw some minutes and he did okay. He did well. But his junior year, he was the man and he was starting. And the coach is a little rough around the edges. And the kid, I never thought that he really loved basketball. I think he did it more because his parents pushed him. At the end of the season last year, he decided to quit the team, and his parents were devastated about it, and they're still devastated about it, and they just, and the kid's happier than ever. Like he's never been happier.
That's it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's it. If the kid is happy, that's all that matters.
Happier than ever.
That's all that matters. Because, dude, it can go very left, man. Like, yeah, I don't even tell that story, but it can go very left. Like if we're not cognizant of what child's needs are, right, and we can't put our needs before theirs, right? They're the ones that's out there. Like, they're the ones that's out there busting their butt, going to practice, doing these camps, all that stuff, and they may not want to be, and that can build something in them that no one will be able to control, if it's not checked. So,
well, what hurt me the most, I was over there and we did a show the other day, and the kid said that, like, I wish I wasn't tall. Like, I hate the fact that I'm tall because I'm expected to do this or that. He wishes he was shorter, and that just broke my heart to hear that, because you should never have those types of feelings. But I know that he's happy, but for him to say, like, I wish I wasn't tall.
Yeah, because then now that plays into identity issues. Well, you know what I mean? Like, how do you see yourself? Exactly. Like, do you only see yourself through the eyes of others? Like, have you found your own identity? Like, what if this kid wants to be a skateboarder, a rocker, whatever?
He's playing volleyball and loving it. He loves playing volleyball.
Hey, like, let's have at it, right? Like that
drives his dad nuts. He loves playing volleyball.
But that's the thing. And it's tough as parents. So I'm not knocking any parent who can't. It's tough, man. It's very tough. It's very tough.
It's his life, and he absolutely loves playing volleyball. But I was also reading that today was the start of the early signing day period, and some kids didn't get or sign with the team that they were expected to. Scholarships were pulled at the last second. Scholarships were offered at the last second, and kids are treating it as the end of the world. And obviously tomorrow's going to come and they're still going to go to school. It may not be the school that they want to, but I think what you said about their identity being so entrenched in this sport, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, this is where I'm supposed to be going, this is supposed to be my path, doesn't always work out that way. And I was talking with Bethany Hart. I do a show with her, and on the show, it's not something that was private. She disclosed to me that she was Olympic bobsledder, and there were members of the team afterwards that really, really struggled with their identity, and one of them even led to a suicide. And it took recognition from other people that we're able to get her help and get her through it. But the identity, what I said to her is, throughout your life, who you are, I think, is the same, but your identity is constantly changing as we grow older, and it's sometimes very, very difficult to accept. Like, I'm not going to be an Olympic bobsledder anymore. Like, it's passed me by, and getting through that. And that's why, I was telling her that mental health awareness and getting treatment for that, seeing a counselor, seeing a therapist, seeing a psychiatrist, that is going to at least be a starting point to help get you through that. But doing nothing and just suffering in silence, that ends up being the culprit that leads to these tragedies and to these disasters, that'll lead to a suicide, that'll lead to drug use, that'll lead to a family breaking up. And I just felt so bad hearing the story, I can't even imagine competing in the Olympics, and then it's over, and that's your last run, and that's who you are. And I can identify with that as a football player, as a coach, and it's very, very difficult to navigate through. But you learn that you can't navigate through it alone, and you have a support system. But she had wondered, when are you aware enough to know that you need to take the next step and get help and see a counselor? Or is it going to be the people having a support system around you that will be that will make the difference for you getting help?
So here's the challenge, and I'll speak for myself. I won't say this is all athletes, but here's a challenge with some athletes. We're competitors, right? So we don't want to believe that we're part of the statistic, that needs help.
Exactly.
I tell people on my podcast that I've experienced what I now recognize as depression 3 times in my life. Right now, it could have been way more than that, but 3 specific times stand out in my life. And in all cases, I didn't know I was depressed until afterwards, until I got out of it.
Exactly.
Right? So I couldn't recognize it. You're not
going to be objective enough to recognize.
No, man. And also, dude, you're in it.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is, you're in it. And it's like but once the toughest challenge is identifying, whether real time or after the fact, that you were depressed or you were off or that you could have used a hand, right? Once you realize that is the case, then you can start identifying, at least I was able to start identifying triggers, right? So I can tell when I'm getting depressed or when I am depressed, and not right away, but based on how I talk. Right. So like I'm naturally optimistic.
Very positive. Yes.
I forgot what one of my partners at work, what did he call me? He said, I'm a serial optimist, right? Like
you are. You are an eternal optimist.
Like I'm just like, anyway, that's how I'm made up, right? So my triggers is when I start talking about my hardships, right? Pertaining to whatever's going on. So a perfect example would be which is the first time that I had the words to know that I was depressed was when I lost my spot to Terry Cawley when I was a sophomore, right? Or redshirt sophomore. Anyway, during that time, you couldn't tell me I was depressed. You could have looked up the definition, pointed out everything I did that fit that description. I'm like, man, I'm not depressed. Get out my face, right? But now I knew, hindsight, I realized I was, and I thought about things I used to say to myself. You know what I mean? I would start talking about, how well I did in camp and everything that I did that should have given me the nod, right? And I mentioned this on the podcast before. I now know that Napoleon Hill says the three things that hold people back is poverty, education, and superstition. Right? Those are three things that hold people back. And he follows that up by saying people will focus on what they don't have instead of what they want or what they're trying to get. Right? Like, and when I'm depressed, that's what I do. I focus on what I don't have. Right? Like I again, back to that same example, I'm like, I would say because at the time it was true, like nobody had more yards than me last year. I longest carry from scrimmage. I would say all these things, right? Like all these things that I don't have right now, right? Like I don't, right. This doesn't mean anything right now, right. As opposed to saying, you know what? It was a hard fought camp. He did his thing. I'm going to get my job back. Right. That's the difference. Then, and what happened, or at least for me, I just stayed in that space until I was out of it. And then I was out of it. I'm like, okay, I'm never letting that happen again as it pertains to this scenario. You see what I'm saying? And then I could pick up my triggers, but not all scenarios are created equal. So it's like, you have another life experience and you can find yourself in that same place and you can't identify the triggers because it's a new scenario for you. It's a new life experience. So you don't have the wherewithal because you have never gone through it. So it's not like you can be like, oh, I've seen this before, at least for me, right? Like it takes me some time, but then how I start talking to myself, then I'm like, I'm here again. I'm here again. And even when I recognize it,
it's the awareness.
I may or may not be in it still, right? Like if I'm in it, I'll recognize it, but I won't do anything about it. You know what I mean? But I'll understand that, okay, I got to start working myself out of it because now I know where I'm at. Because before I identify it, to your original question, I don't know I'm there.
No.
So you don't know. Like you have no idea. And that's the thing. And sometimes people who have an athletic background or from a competitive sports arena or a job or anything, a person, they will try to will themselves out of it, and sometimes we're not enough.
No.
Sometimes we're not enough. And that's the thing. It's like, that's why I won't talk about depression in real time. Because in my mind, I'm like, I can power through this. Now,
of course.
Now, I also do a lot of things, right? Like I have a therapist, I have a personal therapist, I have my wife and I have a therapist that we go see. I have a podcast where I talk about shit every week. I meditate, like I read, I work out. I have a lot of outlets, you know what I mean? To potentially shake it, Correct. But that wasn't the case. I have all these safeguards now because I know what it looks like, exactly. And how it can impact me. So it is very tough, man. It is very tough to recognize it especially if you come from a competitive background.
Jennifer from Stores from UConn, she says, thank you for doing this show. I watch it. It's been a great help. And I think I thank you for putting yourselves out there. Mental health has a stigma and it affects all of us. She wanted to know, she goes through bouts of anxiety or depression.
Yep.
What your thoughts are on meditation? Because I
just brought that up.
Yep. That's why I asked, because you brought it up. meditating. She was just curious about how it's done and is it a good tool if done the right way.
So, man, I'll say this: my old boss, he's very cerebral, right? Like he's very like he has like this. He's not like any boss I've ever had. He's very like Buddha-esque. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like it was weird. Anyway, because he was so different, naturally people like shied away. They're like, all right, well, I don't know what this guy's doing, like all this, earthy stuff, but nonetheless, he was pushing the whole team, meditate, pushing like aggressively. And again, like I'm a coachable human being, right? So you tell me to do something that could be for my best interest, I'm gonna try it. And I tried meditating and it wasn't working. Like I don't know where I was just talking about this, but
Yeah.
I was doing it.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I did it. I don't know, several times I tried it. And my issue, Cully, was when I was done, when the time was up, bro, my mind was in a worse spot because it was still racing. So it was just like, here's the issue with people like us. We move, we do all these things, right? You're filming 15 shows a day or whatever the case. So you're never sitting still. I mean, crap, you're drinking coffee at 9:30, right? Like we're just always on the go. So our mind and our body's conditioned to move. So when you sit it down, it almost doesn't know what to do with itself. You know what I mean? So for me,
right.
like my mind was just going. I couldn't slow it down. And then when I stopped meditating, now I got to deal with all the speed that's going on. So one day I ruptured my Achilles 2 years ago and I'm just in the bed, obviously couldn't move much. And he sends me a YouTube meditation and I'm just tired of him pushing it on me. So I just
one of those guided meditations.
Guided ones. Here, I'm not current state, me personally, strong enough to meditate on my own. I like the guided ones for me. So anyway, what I learned, I clicked on it. And then for the first time, my mind stopped. And I was able to take it all in. And what I learned, and afterwards, I'm like, well, I wonder what was so different. I learned I blindly clicked on it, but it was a 25-minute meditation. The previous ones I had been doing were 10 or 15 minutes. And that just wasn't enough time for my mind to slow down. So I needed like 10 or 15 minutes for my mind to slow down. And then I can start reflecting. I can start thinking deeply. I can start being, as they say, where your feet are. You know what I mean? I needed that extra 20 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes to let the meditation take hold. So once I learned that, I just started doing, 20, 25 minutes. And then it
made a difference.
It made a big difference. Then with repetition, then I could do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes because I was just so used to doing it, but here's what I'll say, man. Meditation helped me a great deal. And because again, we're on the go. Like life is fast, right? Life is fast and life comes at you fast and you are just adjusting. And when you meditate, it forces you to just be still. Like it forces you to be still, forces you. And I'll say for the people who will try meditating after this, it's okay if you fall asleep during meditation, right? Like your body's going to figure it out. But anyway, like one of the biggest epiphanies I had from meditation, and I'll just share this with you guys. I shared it on my platform before. I had, and I don't know if I've ever talked. Did I ever talk about my dad on here? I don't know if I have.
You have not.
No. Okay, so
just him visiting you in juvie.
Okay.
Two paths.
Yep. So my dad's a gangster, right? Like I don't know how else to say it. Like that's just who he is. Like that's how he was raised. That's how he is, and not anymore, right? He's 65 years old, but anyway, he's always been a live wire. Like he has 9 siblings and he's the youngest boy and he's always been the security, right? He's the one they call when there's a problem. Like he's always been that way. But he's super charismatic. Like if I brought him to a bar in your hometown,
he
15 minutes after being there, he'll have a crowd around him. Like that's just how he is. He was the main attraction at my wedding, right? Like that's just how he is. Anyway,
so that's where you get it from.
I guess, man. But anyway, so I had again, I'm in a boot, so I can't put a lot of pressure on my foot. And I had just gotten to the house and we were getting a bed delivered. And I called him, I called my brother, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna come pick you guys up so you can move all this stuff for me so we can make space for the bed or whatever. And my dad tells stories. He tells amazing stories, right? Like
great storyteller.
And they're just all entertaining.
Yeah.
And then again, I would always ask myself, part of the reason why I go to therapy, I'm sharing a lot tonight with you guys, but part of the reason why I started going to therapy is I would do things in life that didn't make sense and align with where I was at in life. Right. So it's like, why do I keep doing this? So anyway, we're going home. And, at the time, I'll get into that. But anyway, my dad's talking and he's like reminiscing, and he's reminiscing when I was a knucklehead, and he's reminiscing on different times. And he basically started glowing, talking about my reputation, back then. And he's like, man, I remember they were saying this about you and this, and he's like glowing, right? Now, what I'll say is this: my dad is my biggest fan, right? He's never missed a game. That dude, he's going to be on the front line. But at that moment, I understood, everything came together full circle for me. So what I learned that when he said that is, like, I was the first Black director in my company. Like there was a lot of accomplishments I've had in my company, but he doesn't understand that world.
No.
So he doesn't know how to quantify that, right? Like he doesn't know what that means really. He knows I'm doing well. He knows, he's proud of me, but he doesn't know what that means. He doesn't
understand completely.
But that street shit, he can quantify that.
That he knows.
Right? He can quantify that. So if somebody's saying this about me and this about me, oh, okay, it's happening, right? Like, so he can validate that. What I realized is the reason why I started going to therapy is because what I now know is because I was still seeking that validation from like the people who I looked up to in my family. And one of them was the cousin that I talked about before. One of them was my dad. And these are all street guys, right? So like, and what I learned is both of them, when they talk about me in that light, they it's almost like they now have something tangible to brag on me about.
Right.
To the people who understand that.
Exactly.
Where they can't necessarily brag on me in corporate America. They have no idea what's happening up here.
For the colleges you spoke.
Like they don't understand it. Like my dad told my cousin 6 months ago, he was like, yeah, you know, he calls me Duke. He's like, Duke got a Comcast, right? I'm like, a what? I'm like, you mean a podcast, Dad? He's like, yeah, podcast. Like, you see what I'm saying? But so he doesn't know, like he doesn't understand it. But that's
a different world.
Yeah, and that's what I learned. Like that's what I realized. It's like there's something that I saw as aspirational that doesn't align with my life now, right? And there's approval also tied to that aspiration that I was seeking that doesn't align to my life now. And now it's just about helping them understand, well, one, being in different environments where like that's not the goal. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I'm older now, like I'm in my 40s. It's like that's not my goal. That's never been my goal as an adult. But as a kid, early, teens, late teens, there was some excitement there because I knew what came with it. And I didn't know this world. You know, I didn't know this world, but I
No.
knew I could be the man in my neighborhood. I can be the man in my family, right? Based on these means, because I didn't know anything else. And they're no different. That's where they are now. And it's not like, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but
No.
like
No.
that's their exposure, right?
Right.
That's their exposure. My dad's never worked at corporate America. My cousins never worked at corporate America. That's their reality.
That's where
Whereas I'm like, you know, like if you guys came over here, you'll see all the great things that I'm doing, right? If you got to if you took the time to understand that, you know what I mean? But that's, I don't know, that's a long answer, but meditating helped me recognize that. Like meditating helped me recognize that, you know, like that's what I was looking for when I'm not going to get it. Not in that arena at this stage in life. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get it.
No. But is it something where quiet, dark place, music, guided meditation, that would be the best way to start if you're inexperienced?
It's what, this is a true story. I know people who meditate while driving.
Oh, okay.
Like, so, but how I did it initially, I did it in a bed. And you know what? For the people listening, I've been off my meditation consistency. So if you guys reach out to us, if you want to start a 21-day meditation challenge, I'll do it with you. You know,
wow. Okay.
Just reach out, say you want to do it. We can communicate and we can do it. But here's how I did it. Again, I was novice, right? I'm still a novice. Like I'm not the guy you want to talk to like on meditation practices, right? But what I do is I would meditate before I got out of bed. Yeah. So I would literally just lay in bed and I would throw my headphones on and I would tell my wife, like, look, I'm meditating, don't bother me. And I'll just go through it, you know, and then I would do it in the morning and I would do it at night when I was on it. You know, when I was on top of it, I would do it in the morning, I would do it at night. And so my eyes would always be closed. And yes, I guess for this scenario, I would always be in a dark room because either I'm waking up and the lights aren't on or I'm going to bed and the lights are off. So.
Right. And you would absolutely say that it made a difference.
It did, man. It did. And again, it's very granola. You know what I mean? Like it's like somebody may, you know, be off put by that, but if you can get past the stigma, right, or what your negative connotations, potential that you have towards it, it's helpful, man. Again, I don't know a person like someone who's working, active, and if you have kids, forget about it. Like, when do you have time for yourself? You know, like, and even when you have time for yourself, you're still worrying about them and everything else that's going on. So what I found for me is meditation allowed me to be very, allow me to think introspectively, you know? Yeah, because you start asking yourself why you do these things and why this happens. Why do you react like this? Why does this? Why does that? And you may not have the answers, but because you're asking yourself the question, when you see the answer, you'll know you got it. That's how that happened with my dad. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. And then I started asking myself these questions. And then I'm like,
that's how you found it.
Then I have that moment and it's like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. All right. Well, I'll give you one more question.
Yeah.
This was from Andrea. She had wanted to know, she is about to start therapy and she wanted to know, you know, obviously they do intake and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What are some good questions that you should be asking your therapist?
Well, before you even get to the questions, the advice I will give is Chris Rock made a joke years ago. He was like, yeah, I went to therapy. He's like, but I sent my representative, you know, like he's like, I was there, but that wasn't me, you know? So what I will say is just, you know, go there with your full self, right? Go there with your full self.
You have to. Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to be able to get some help. So go there with your full self. What their specialization is, right? What do they specialize in? You know, like you may have got a recommendation or found someone and they may focus on, you know, relationship therapy, right? Sex therapy, right? And that's not what you're looking for right now. So what your what their specialization is, what credentials do they have, how long have they been doing it,
Right.
you know, if it's a demographic that, you know, like, hey, what's your experience with
Yeah.
black women, black men, white women, like you can ask that. I'm trying to think of some other good questions.
Treatment plans I know are important. They put
Yeah,
together treatment plans for you
yeah, but I
and
also think it's
how long they see you for.
yeah, but it's also a feeling that you can't
Oh,
quantify.
100%.
You know, like you
I know
can't
that.
quantify that.
Yes.
And what I'll say to people, do not be afraid if you don't have that feeling like, okay, this is my person, to find someone else. Now, when
Right.
I say
Exactly.
this isn't my person, what I mean by that is because they may say some shit that's going to piss you off, right? Like they may
Oh,
say
they
something
do. Yes.
right? So
That
don't don't take that as okay, this isn't my person. But you'll know if there's a connection. You know what I mean?
right.
Like you'll know
Right.
if there's a connection. And sometimes what we do is we we find ourselves sometimes in such a bad spot that we need to see somebody like we're in dire straits and then we'll just stay because it's like, well, I needed the help, so they're
Yeah,
here. And they may not be the best person for
I
you.
think it.
Or
Yeah.
you could stay there for a year and you may realize, hey, I need to go to see someone else so they can take me to the next level.
To the next
You
step.
know,
Yeah.
so don't be afraid to bail if the feeling isn't there. There's more therapists out there that may work better for you,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just something that you have to I can't tell you how to feel that. That's just something that you'll know
Yeah.
or you know. But be okay
agree
with when you don't have it that you can go find someone else.
I
They won't take
agree with you.
offense.
Yeah. No, they don't. I know there's just been like around here especially there's been such a shortage of counselors, therapists,
Yeah.
clinicians where some people have to wait 3 months. Some people have
Yeah.
6 months wait. They have waiting lists to get in because they just can't. They can't
Yeah.
take them,
Yeah.
and it's a frustration among them. But like I think she was just she knows what she's going in for. She knows that she's going to the person who specializes in it. But
Perfect.
she was just curious. She was looking at it more, I think, like a job interview where they ask questions and they want you to ask questions. And then she was just curious, like, what question should I be asking back to them? And I know one of her concerns was, if I do therapy, is it something I'm going to be doing lifelong, or is there an end point? And
That
she didn't know if it was offensive to ask that.
no,
Because
I
like,
mean, but dude, that's all on the individual, man. Like my
yeah,
wife and I,
it's
we've been
yeah,
going to therapy for 8 or 9 years now,
right,
and it's just maintenance at this
right,
point. Like
right,
we
right.
we meet once a month, once
Oh,
every
yeah,
couple of months. Like
yeah,
it's just maintenance because there's certain things that happen. Because the thing is, you can't definitively say one way or the other because life happens.
yeah, yeah.
You have like
Never
for
know.
instance, we got some things going on, so we're meeting more frequently now.
Right,
Right, we got
right.
some life choices we're making, and now I
Yeah,
was like, okay, hey, we may need to see you, more frequently until we get through this. So it's it's just good to have. It's good
yeah,
to have in whatever capacity you need them in is what you need them in. But it's just good to kudos to anybody who takes a step to
yeah.
seek
That's
help.
that's
Period.
that's
Right.
100% true.
And if you're
Because
doing that, if you find it valuable, keep going. If you don't find it valuable, stop. Right.
right, right. It's got to make a difference. It's got to be right for you, and you can't just do it just to do it. You have to
Right.
put in the effort. You have to do the work, which I know all too well because I would just show up and not do the work, which
Hey guys, I'm here. I'm here.
which infuriated people. You have to participate. You have to do the
Yeah.
work, and they know what they're talking about. They put together treatment plans, and if you follow the treatment plan, if you do what you're told, and you really have to believe, you have to buy in. From my experience,
You got to
because
be ready to receive
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I yeah 100%, 100%, and I know. when I had first started, I was very, very resistant. I did not buy in, and it didn't help me at all. But, the second and third times that I've gone through it, I bought in wholeheartedly. I did the treatment plan. I did what I was told. I did my homework, and I believed in it. I believed that this was going to make me better. This was going to help me become the person that I want to be. This was going to help me establish myself and get a career. This was going to help me establish and be in a relationship, all those things that come to mind. And I think once I took the step of buying in, that made a huge difference as well. But as far as finding the right therapist, asking the right questions, it's all very difficult, just because there's just a shortage of them. There's a shortage of them. You may get stuck with someone you don't like, and it may not be because of anything else. It's just availability.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. If it's not the right fit, then it's going to do more harm than good for you to try to stick with it. In my opinion, at least, I think it'll do more harm than good. Find someone who's a good fit, but don't do nothing. That's the worst part. You have a support system. That's the biggest thing I found, especially with us, with our network. We have a great support system just by our own teammates. There's a handful of guys that we could call and talk to. There's a handful of guys that would jump through a fire to help us.
Yep.
So I think everyone has that. They just may not believe it in their hearts, but they do. And
some people don't want to burden others. Where it's
that's
no,
the other thing. I'm the same way.
like,
I'm exactly the same way. I do not want to be a burden. I feel
but there's a bigger burden watching you suffer.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's put on those people. So, but I get it because I'm the last to ask for help. So I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
You're right though. They would much rather not see you go down in flames than come to them with help or with an issue with the situation.
Right.
Because they love you, they care about you, and they want the best for you. And that's what I found out. So I think you did a pretty good job on this episode. You got thrown. I gave you a lot of questions. You got a lot of feedback.
Appreciate it, Kelly.
You got a lot of feedback.
I love it, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to take it. Like, it's great. Like, I'm here for all the questions, and I'll be as transparent as possible.
Well, people think that you're very calm and you're very easy to talk to. And I mean,
there's probably a stark contrast from some of the other shows you have too.
Yes,
there's that.
Yes, but the calmness and the comfort that you provide them, I just, Barry White soothing your voice. I don't know what it is, but they love hearing from you, and you always provide, I think, valuable insight that, I can see by the feedback that it's helping people and making a difference. Like, I read you questions, but there were also many, many comments. Thank you for talking about this. Thank you for bringing this up. This is a pivotal topic that gets ignored, and we're so happy that you guys have identified these things and are bringing them to light, because there's groups that watch it together, teams watch it together, and just hearing that, I was blown away by it. Because I think we've done maybe a month's worth of episodes.
Yeah.
To be able to make a difference like that in someone's life, that's huge. And it's going down.
Cully, I said it before and I'll say it again, man. You're the glue. You're the glue, dude. You're the glue. Right. You're the glue. So,
yeah, I appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate the platform, man. And this helps me. Like, thank you everyone who's asked questions and the kind words. But honestly, just speaking some of these things,
Talking it out,
yeah,
100%.
it relieves some
100%.
tension for me. Like I wasn't feeling that great going into this call just based
I'm
on everything.
sure. Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
You're
But just
rushing
being able to
around.
talk
Yeah.
through it, I guess this is good. It's been good for me. Like I enjoy it. So
Well,
let's keep it
just
going.
just know that there's people out there that are grateful and thankful for all your contributions and all your guidance and the advice that you give, because I do think it's making a big difference. So,
Well, we'll keep going.
for another Huskies Health, again, Procyon Partners, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm. If you've suffered a slip and fall, if a beam fell on you at a construction site, if you got bitten by a dog, any type of personal injury, if you've had a car accident, whenever you're in a pinch, call Finch. Bleeding Blue for Good, Mike Burton, he raised enough money to get us to 8 wins, and we're going bowling. Now we need more people to contribute. Go to www.bleedingblueforgood.org and donate. Every dollar counts. And Dynamic Human Performance, that is Andre Dixon. He is training kids from adolescence up through high school, girls, boys, sports, doesn't matter. He will work with you. He has programs ranging from 3 months to 6 months to a year. He works with college athletes who come home on break. He has the pedigree for being one of the top running backs in UConn history. And he has a 5,000 square foot facility that is amazing, that can do incredible things, from dynamic workouts, plyometrics, weightlifting, whatever it is, he has it. And they also offer many classes throughout the day, for anyone interested. And I think that's about it. So for the man himself, Chris Bellamy from Tech Systems, and the hit podcast, All Black Men Need Therapy. They go around the country touring and they speak. He's also an advocate for fathers being in their child's lives, regardless of the parental situation. Fathers need to be around, and he is fighting for those rights. Support him in that endeavor. We are glad to have him on a Huskies Health to provide advice and guidance to anyone who is reaching out and needs it. And I myself am still the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges.